Hello there and welcome back to another review. So I reviewed Satire Weedo 808 recently and it got me thinking I'm going to start looking at some old, I want to review some old school anime for you guys, like anime I remember, anime I grew up on, anime that I'm very fond of, and just anime that I just remember from back in the day and way back when. So I thought today we'd have a look at Roujin Z or Roujin Z or however you want to say it, made back in 1991 and directed by Hiroyuki Kitakubo, who also worked on films such as Blood the Last Vampire and the groundbreaking Akira or Akira, however you want to say it. Some say Akira, some say Akira, it really doesn't matter. You know the groundbreaking film I mean. So what is this movie? Now, if I told you it was part action, part sci-fi, part thriller, part satire, part comedy, and part sort of robot gone rogue type of film, then that would be quite a big pill to swallow indeed. But that's exactly what Roujin Z is, or Roujin Z. I think I'm going to stick with Roujin Z. I don't know. I'll mix it up as the review goes along. But anyway, there's a lot of genres. There's a real mishmash, a real hodgepodge of genres that are present in this movie. But as I say, that's exactly what Roujin Z is. As I say, it's sci-fi, it's satire, it's thriller, it's comedy, it's all these things. It's social commentary, everything just thrown into the mix. I remember seeing this movie sort of in the shops when I was younger, looking at the sort of the anime section, seeing this old man in his hospital gown inside this giant robot, and thinking, what on earth could that be about? Obviously, I used to go in sort of video game shops and things like that, and they used to have an anime section, a manga section, things like that, and obviously Ghost in the Shell, Akira was there, and everything like that, and but Roujin Z was one of them ones that you think, what on earth? Me being about 10, 11 years old at the time, I was like, I have no idea at all what on earth that movie could be about. But there was something about it where I was just so curious that I just had to check it out. So what is it about this movie that sets it apart? Well, at its core, the theme of the movie is basically caring for the elderly. There is a core element to the movie, and the whole idea, the coreness to it is about caring for the elderly, about senior citizens, about having time for the elderly, and sort of that kind of sort of narrative here. So, do we as people give the elders sort of our respect, the care and dignity they deserve? And it is a film that questions our own ethics when it comes to the idea of how we care and sort of look after the elderly. Now, only from Japan would you get a movie like this. The great thing is, yes, it is a futuristic robot on the rampage kind of movie, but the subject matter is something that has weight and heart to it, and actually asks questions and notions like, could a machine ever replace the idea of a human contact and love, and when caring for a sort of an elderly person? And that, as I say, there's a lot going on with this movie, and the movie isn't overly that long. I think it's only about 70-80 minutes around that time. It's not an overly long movie. The whole notion, just because someone may be old and unable to do things doesn't mean they should be treated with any less respect and dignity than the next person. Yes, there are funny moments to be had throughout, and the animation on the machinery and the mechanical elements and the robotics are all fantastically animated, at least for the time anyway. So it's the animation here. It's not as grand or as epic as Akira, but there's especially with the machinery and sort of like I say, automobiles and anything like that. It really, as I say, it really does come across sort of, like I say, really well animated as the film progresses and gets on. It's a great old school anime, just as I remember it and just how I like it. The movie was written by Katsuhiro Otomo, the creator and movie director of Akira, and the film definitely has some Akira vibes going through it, especially sort of the last 20 minutes or so, even if it is done in a slightly more light-hearted comedic fashion. And this is one of them anime movies that you should really check out, if nothing else, just for the sheer originality of it all and the premise alone. I'd say it's an old school anime. It's got an original premise. It's not too long. There's a lot to be enjoyed here, and as I say, there's so many different things going on with this movie, it is one of them movies you've really got to check out for yourself to see if you do enjoy it. And if it is a film for you, I don't think anybody can sort of necessarily sort of say, oh, it's definitely a great film, because I think this is one of them movies that you'll either love it to pieces like I do, or you'll think, what the hell sort of is going on with this movie? as I say, just check it out for the sheer originality alone. See that these are the movies like I like that are just for, like I say, the sheer just done so well. They make you think, the originality, they're original, and they just keep you entertained. So I think the film is only about 1 hour 20 minutes in length. Roujin really has a lot going on with it, and it's definitely sort of an old school anime that you should check out. It felt, like I say, if nothing else, just to make your own mind up on. The film is usually ranked high as well, up on people's list. Whilst not maybe a bona fide classic, it's just simply an anime that you must see. I think whether you like it or not, it just obviously depends on, what you enjoy. But I think it's one of these old school animes that you really should check out. It's probably, I say, a lot of anime aficionados obviously probably speak quite highly of Roujin, but make sure to go and check it out. And I've read reviews where some have said the message of the film sort of gets lost at the end, or it's not addressed enough and turns into more of an action movie, which is sort of true. And to the filmmakers' credit, I think that it's a deliberate choice not to preach or to be too patronising. I think that was, like I say, to their credit really, that they didn't let it become too like we're lecturing people. They put the notion there, they put the question in front of you. They do, as I say, there are sort of important questions asked with this movie, but they don't drag it through, they don't drag it on and on to the point where it becomes preachy and it comes like a sort of a lecture. And the film, despite its subject matter, never ever feels, like I say, like it is lecturing you. It never feels like it's sort of trying to preach this holier than thou message or anything like that. I say sometimes ranked on a lot of anime best lists. Roujin Z is definitely an old school anime that, as I mentioned, you must check out. So we'll get into it a little bit now. Just give my thoughts on various things throughout the movie and just sort of what happens, and the shtick. You've seen my reviews, you know the drill, you know the videos. So the film starts with this old man crying out for Haruko, and he has wet the bed and he needs assistance. And the whole premise is that sort of nursing homes are overcrowded, and there is this new project that there is sort of coming in that is to help the elderly and bedridden with all their needs. And the elderly gentleman in question, Mr. Takazawa, who Haruko is looking after, and she is like a student nurse. And whilst with him at his home, some guys in suits come in and say that he is coming with them, and they are from the Ministry of Public Welfare. And notice how in this scene as well, if you watch it, notice how the cat as well keeps sitting on Takazawa, and that is something that actually pays off at the end of this movie. If you start to watch this film, take notice of the cat at the start of the movie that keeps on sitting on him, because there's a little in-joke with the cat later on at the end of the movie. So the presentation, they show off this new multi-purpose bed that Takazawa is going to be sort of the guinea pig for. It can wash the patient, can handle patient waste, and this poor elderly man is there butt naked in the crowd, full of people, no regards for his well-being at all. The ironic thing is that despite during the presentation the guy saying it helps maintain the dignity, that is absolutely the last thing they are giving this gentleman right at this point in time. They're talking about showing him, giving him dignity and sort of all the comfort and things he needs, but he is just being used as a guinea pig. As I say, he's butt naked in front of all these people on this machinery, and like I say, it's quite humiliating for the elderly gentleman, but the powers that be, they're they're just using him to sort of aid their presentation on this new device. So this bed comes with TVs, phones and computer games for entertainment, and can even help give him exercise, and basically it's a bed of the future that can do everything, right? It's just a bed that can just do anything you want. It's got everything you need. You don't have to move. There's entertainment, washing, cleaning, you name it. This bed basically just has it all. And also just one small little thing that is powered by nuclear, it's nuclear powered as well. Just that little small thing just makes you feel just a little bit extra safe. The fact that the sucker is nuclear, as Marty McFly would say. So Haruko asked an important question, okay, yeah, it can do all that, but how can it love him? And again, that's a very important question. How important is human contact to an elderly person? And again, I'd say quite important, and I think machines and machinery can only do much. So whilst going on about her day, Haruko gets a message at work on her computer saying her name over and over and asking for help. As I say, the whole film, despite its little comedic touches, its action and satirical elements, the underlying question is, are we doing enough to care for and respect the elderly? And I think that's a very important question here, as I say, but it doesn't become preachy, it doesn't lecture you, it just puts the question in front of you, and then the film just goes on. So Haruko and her friends go to help Takezawa. When they get there, they learn that the pros and wires are in his nervous system and trachea, and like very good line when the powers that be say we have the family's permission, and sort of her and her friends are like, yeah, but do you have his permission? And again, very good sort of question there. It's like, well, we've got the family's permission to do this. Like, yeah, okay, but have you got his permission? He's the person you're doing it to. And it's, a very important question. So this bed just starts moving, basically, as he escapes with Haruko and her friends and can now actually speak. Terada, the guy sort of in charge of the project, is like, haha, at one point he goes, haha, it won't fit through the elevator door. There's no way it can get out the beds. And it actually sort of changes shape to get through. And they're just totally and utterly gobsmacked when this bed sort of, like I say, just changes shape and accordingly and fits through. And all Mr. Takezawa wants is to go home. That's the sweetness to this film, like to this guy. He just wants to go home. He doesn't want any of this. And love when they get the bed back, how Terada's boss, Mr. Minigawa, is like, remind me again in the blueprints where it said transform in bed. Like, remind me again where, during pre-production, where it said something about the bed that is able to transform. Like, I missed that bit. So something he says that they never got complete readings from the computer, and there really is a sweet undercurrent to the story too, with Takezawa like sort of remembering his wife and when he was younger, and like the whole idea is like just because someone's old and that they still have experiences, they still have memories, they still were young once, like we all were. We all get old, and as I say, what happens in 1 hour, like literally 80 minutes. There's a lot going on with this movie. There's a hell of a lot going on, but it's one of them movies that is sort of only as deep as you want it to be. Like, you can look at it as it's quite deep, or you can just look at it as sort of like a comedic action film. So it sort of balances the two things really well, but it doesn't sort of lean too far into sort of being a preachy, like moral message type film to sort of an action sci-fi romp. So it sort of balances them two things really well. Haruko, because of what happened, has been limited to like sort of war duty. Now in one of these wars, there is like this old hacker who has like exposed this company. It's like, God, it's such a rush. He's exposed this company, and it's like, and he's sort of sitting in his hospital bed, and he's a hacker. He's an elderly gentleman, and he's like, God, my back hurts, and he's like, it's such a rush. It's even giving me a hard on as well at some point. Even going so far as to show it to Haruko as well, I might add, and she wants basically these hackers to help her communicate with Takezawa, and he is curious about, because he's the hacker guy is curious about a 6th generation computer. But yeah, he just shows her his privates for just no reason at all, but he just does. So they managed to recreate Takezawa's wife's voice. Don't ask me how. And a nurse of the facility sort of runs out screaming. They learn that the bed has a biocomputer, which means basically it has living matter inside it, and it is stateside funded for the military. So Haruko and her new elder hacker friends start controlling the bed and getting it to walk. I mean, bearing in mind this is all from the hospital ward as well. They're managing to do all this hacking and all this techno stuff straight from the hospital ward. They're just doing it right there. They send it driving down the road, and check out all the animation on these destruction sequences. It really is done amazingly well with such attention to detail. So it just borders on sort of Akira type of animation. As I say, not as grand and as epic as that, but still amazingly well animated. So especially for the time in 1991. And the computer has taken like a personality and is adding parts to the bed and its body as it sort of moves around the city. As I say, only from Japan would you get a movie like this. And this thing gets massive, gets absolutely gigantic, and it sort of really ramps up, so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, keeps adding parts. The music sort of intensifies, and it really does build. And like I said, some people have said it loses its way, loses its footing in sort of the last third of the movie. But I think overall it sort of it flows really well. This movie, I think it's maybe the length that might make it seem like it does go a little bit off the rails at the end there, and it slowly slips into sort of action movie territory now. not by a huge amount, but just everything gets ramped up. So the bed was a military project and weapons test. Even the guy you think is the villain, Terada, was actually lied to about its origin and purpose. And the bed's personality is based on Takazawa's memories. And look out for the awesome action scene on the monorail track. And again, the attention to detail is mind-blowing with all the mechanics and the framework. And I say, like, the monorail sequence really does stuck in my memory anyway when I first saw it. But great action. Really, really is well done. But I say it's like a different movie, that last sort of, say, third of the movie, but it's still entertaining nonetheless. Terada and Haruko following in like a helicopter, and Terada actually falls out and is saved by the bed, and all Mr. Takazawa wants is to go to the beach. And as it's using its memories for personality, the bed becomes sort of the embodiment of his wife as well, which I think is quite sweet. I think they sort of like become a team, and the ending to the movie is really sweet as well. So then Hasegawa, a guy who knew of the bed's real purpose, unleashes the alpha version, which is more like a combat version of said bed. And the bed and this alpha type get into like a Transformer-style Michael Bay brawl. But there's love sweet moments when Takazawa is like, I'm hungry, and his wife's voice says, I have my hands full, just wait a moment, darling. And she's like duking it out with this alpha sort of robot. And as I say, there's little sweet notions like that. Like, she releases him to keep him safe. Haruko, like Miyada, Haruko's friend, turns up via ambulance, and her and Terada follow the robots, determined. Like, the robot is determined to get Takazawa to the beach, right? It's absolutely determined. And the combat version sort of severs its controls, so now it's taking orders from no one, and sort of gets like connected with Haru, the personality of the bed, and smashes into loads of cars. And I say, it's absolutely carnage at the end of the movie. It just, as I say, it's not massively epic, but it's still epic nonetheless. So, as I say, this is where the film sort of becomes like Akira-esque or Akira-light. It definitely has some Akira vibes and like feels running through it. So the old guys who are like the hackers inform them to smash the core chip. And this bed is now, like I say, absolutely massive. This thing, like I mentioned just now how gigantic it is, but the thing now is absolutely, it's a behemoth, right? This thing is crazy, crazy big. Haruko has to actually climb it and grabs like an oxygen tank to completely destroy the chip. And after doing so, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much. The ending is way more like epic than I ever expected it to be. I expected sort of like once she smashes the core chip, I expected it to sort of wrap up quite quickly, which it sort of does. But the ending is a little bit more epic than what I originally thought it was going to be. I've watched it again recently. Used to love it back in the day. I'm watching it again recently. I mean, I hadn't seen it for like a couple of year or two. But I say still holds up, and I love all the continuous pieces falling to the floor. And after this, after it's been destroyed, and all the bits are like sort of falling off. And I say it's really, really well done. The ending with Takazawa crying her name as the machine talks to him as they are at the beach, saying that they will be together soon. As I say, it goes way more dramatic and poignant than I ever thought the movie would. Because as I say, it does become sort of an action, sort of Michael Bay, a sort of Kira action vibes at the end. But it does have. There is a sweetness to the movie, especially when sort of the bed is sort of, like I mentioned, sort of the embodiment of his wife, and it's sort of they're a team, and she's sort of talking to him, and it's using like his memories that creates this personality. And I'd say there's a really sweet notion there. And I love the twist that when I was talked about, remember when I mentioned about the cat earlier, that the cat the whole time was in the bed as well. He's been inside the bed the whole time. Hasegawa gets arrested. You think, okay, well, that's all wrapped up. All is back to normal. The film is all done. Then Haru, like his wife, turns up bigger than ever with like a Buddha statue head, the cat on the shoulders. There are like telephone poles there, you name it, with her saying, let's go to the beach. So there's actually quite a sort of payoff at the end of the movie. There's actually like a comedic conclusion to the movie that she's back, she's bigger than ever, she's got all these parts sort of attached to her, the bed is back, and she's like, right, now we can finally go to the beach. So the film does end on somewhat sort of a light-hearted sweet, nice tone. But watch it for its action scenes, watch it for its originality, watch it for a slice of old school early 90s anime, watch it for the message it is trying to give across, and there is a lot to enjoy here. Maybe not ultra mega must-see classic, but it's definitely a classic anime that is more than worth checking out. So if you haven't seen it, if you've only done like from back in the day, the Akira's, Ghost in the Shell, Ninja Scroll, make sure to go out and check out Roujin Z, because there's a lot to be enjoyed here. If nothing else, just watch it for the sheer sheer originality alone. And because you believe you and me, you've never seen any other anime like this, so make sure to go and check it out. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. See you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.